Princess Lyra of the Elorian Empire floated above her people in a palace made of crystal light. Her world was vast, a maze of cities and towers that shimmered like stars, and she had never seen a human before. She had heard stories of humans, fragile, chaotic creatures from a distant star, but the tailies always painted them as weak, small-minded, incapable of true courage. She scoffed at the idea that any human could be a hero. For generations, the Elorians had relied on technology and intellect. Strength came from knowledge, strategy, and the perfection of one's mind. Lyra believed that heroism was a myth, a story told to entertain children, not something that could actually exist. Yet something in the universe had shifted. Reports had arrived of a human ship that had entered the Elorian system, moving through the asteroid belts with reckless precision. Lyra's council demanded she ignore it. They insisted humans were insignificant, easy to trap or erase. But Lyra felt a strange pull, a curiosity she couldn't name. She watched the small craft approach the outer defense perimeter. It was no grand warship, no armada of advanced weaponry. Just a lone human vessel, battered and old, moving against impossible odds. Her advisors warned her, "It is likely a fool, it will fail. Do not waste your time, princess." But Lyra could not turn away. The human ship danced through the asteroid storm like a living thing. She had seen countless Elorian pilots trained from birth, equipped with the most precise algorithms and fastest engines, yet none moved with the fluidity, the daring, the pure instinct of this lone human. It defied logic. It made her pulse quicken. Hours passed. The ship survived collisions that should have torn it apart. It faced energy storms that could fry an Elorian craft in moments. Yet it pressed onward. And then Lyra noticed something she had never seen in any report or simulation. The human was not just surviving, he was helping. When smaller ships were caught in asteroid fields, when automated defenses misfired, this human maneuvered to protect them, risking himself again and again without hesitation. Lyra's heart tightened. She had always believed in control, in calculated safety. Humans were supposed to be reckless, yet this one seemed selfless. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a sensation unfamiliar and unwelcome, admiration and fear because she did not understand it. When the human ship reached the Elorian capital orbit, Lyra demanded to see him. Her advisors protested. He was likely mad or dangerous. She ignored them. In the observation deck, she watched as the human stepped onto the docking platform. He was small compared to her guards, unarmed, unarmored, and yet he moved with a presence that drew every eye. There was no fear in him, no hesitation, only a determination that radiated like a sun. Lyra leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. "Human, why have you come here?" The man looked up at her, eyes shining with a mix of exhaustion and resolve. "Because I could, and because someone has to." Lyra blinked. The words were simple, nothing poetic, nothing grandiose. But there was truth in them, a raw, unshakable courage that shook her. The advisors murmured in disbelief. "He's reckless, he's just a human." But Lyra did not listen. For the first time in her life, she questioned everything she had been taught about heroes, about power, about the nature of courage itself. Because here, standing before her, was a being who needed no title, no magic, no machine to define him. He carried his own light, and it was blinding. And Lyra felt something she had never felt before: hope. The human's name was Jonah. He did not bow, did not ask for permission, yet he moved with a quiet authority that made Lyra's pulse race. He carried no weapons of Elorian design. He had nothing but a small backpack and a gaze that seemed to pierce through illusions and arrogance alike. Her advisors whispered warnings, but she silenced them with a glance. Something about him demanded attention. "Princess," Jonah said, his voice steady, "your world, it's in danger. I didn't come for glory, I came to help." Lyra's brow furrowed. "Danger, explain." He gestured toward the holographic map of the outer colonies. A massive fleet of unknown ships had appeared on the borders of Eloria, their shapes strange, almost organic. They moved with speed and purpose, swallowing satellites, crushing patrols, and leaving entire colonies in flames. The Elorians had never faced anything like this. Their technology was unmatched in the galaxy, but against this fleet, even their strongest weapons faltered. Why would a human come to stop them? One advisor muttered, disbelief in his voice. Jonah did not flinch. "Because if you don't, there will be nothing left to protect, and someone has to act now. Lyra's heart sank. She had believed in the invincibility of her people, the superiority of her empire. And yet here was a human, a stranger, standing calm while her entire council panicked. His confidence was maddening, irritating, and awe-inspiring. The fleet approached faster than sensors predicted. Jonah volunteered to lead the first mission to the outer colonies, a task no Elorian pilot dared attempt. Lyra hesitated. Her people were trained, her ships were flawless. "You are not trained in Elorian tactics," she said. Jonah smiled faintly, tired but resolute. "I don't need your tactics, I'll figure it out." Against her better judgment, Lyra allowed it. The human boarded a small shuttle no larger than a speeder and launched into the void. Her eyes followed every movement, every second stretched painfully. Then chaos erupted. Reports came in, colonies that should have fallen were still intact. Automated defense systems, once failing, began to function again. Jonah moved like a storm, dodging attacks, drawing enemy fire away from fragile colonies, and disabling key enemy ships with daring maneuvers that no Elorian pilot would risk. Lyra felt her chest tighten with an emotion she could not name. Fear, pride, something deeper, more dangerous. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to break under pressure. But this human, he thrived under it. He made impossible choices in moments that would have frozen the most brilliant Elorian minds. Hours later, Jonah returned. The shuttle was scratched and dented, shields flickering, but he stepped out with a calm that stunned everyone. He did not shout a victory. He did not boast. He simply looked at Lyra and nodded. "We're not done," he said quietly. Lyra's hands trembled. Her advisors were furious, confused, and terrified. They demanded answers, but she could only watch Jonah walk through the halls as if he belonged. Her people had always relied on intellect and technology, but here was proof that courage, raw courage, mattered too. A human had just changed the course of the Elorian Empire with nothing but daring, intuition, and an unshakable will. Late that night, Lyra walked alone to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, distant and cold. She thought about Jonah, about how he had faced the impossible and survived. She realized then that heroism was not about perfection, nor about titles or lineage. It was about choice. And Jonah had chosen to act when every reason told him to run. Her chest ached with a strange longing. She wanted to understand him, to know how a being so ordinary in appearance could carry so extraordinary a heart. And she knew something else. If Jonah could do this, then maybe humans, maybe they were not just fragile creatures of legend. Maybe they were something far greater than anyone, even her, had imagined. For the first time, Lyra did not see a stranger before her. She saw a possibility, a light that could not be contained by crystal towers or fleets or even fear itself. She whispered to the empty observation deck, her voice trembling, "Perhaps I was wrong about humans." The Elorian Empire had never known fear like this. From the highest spire to the smallest colony, panic spread like wildfire. The strange fleet continued to advance, its attacks precise yet unpredictable. Sensors failed, communications were jammed, and even the most advanced ships could not match the alien vessel's speed. The Empire was at the brink of collapse, and Princess Lyra felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her chest like never before. Jonah, however, remained calm. He moved through the command center with quiet confidence, scanning maps, reading reports, and making decisions in moments that would have frozen even the most brilliant Elorian minds. He did not hesitate, did not falter. And with each choice, hope returned to those around him, though none could fully understand how a human could act with such precision under impossible pressure. Lyra watched him. She felt something unfamiliar stirring inside, a mixture of admiration, fear, and longing. She wanted to step forward to offer help, but she knew she could not. Jonah did not need anyone to protect him. He had already shown her that. Then the unexpected happened. A massive vessel, larger than any Elorian ship, emerged from a nearby wormhole. Its hull was black and jagged, almost alive, and it pulsed with a strange, otherworldly energy. The fleet she had been studying scattered as though terrified, but Jonah did not flinch. He pointed toward the vessel. "That's the core. Take it down and the rest will crumble." Lyra's advisors panicked. "Impossible, it's too large, too powerful." Jonah shook his head. "It's not impossible, it's just difficult, and we don't have the luxury of doubt." Against every rule, he volunteered to approach the vessel alone in the same small shuttle that had survived the first attacks. Lyra felt her heart pound. No human should face this. Yet she could not stop him. Something inside her knew that if he failed, it would not be because of weakness, but because the challenge itself was unmatched. And if he succeeded, then the impossible would be proven. Jonah launched. The shuttle streaked toward the massive ship, weaving through energy blasts and debris. Lyra held her breath as she watched him dodge strikes that would have destroyed the best Elorian crafts, and then something remarkable happened. Jonah began to study the vessel's patterns, learning its movements, predicting its attacks. He did not rely on weapons alone. He relied on intuition, on understanding, on the courage to act even when logic suggested failure. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. She had been raised to trust only intellect, only precision, yet here was proof that raw courage could be stronger than any algorithm, faster than any computation. Her chest ached, not with fear alone, but with a strange admiration that bordered on awe. Hours passed. The vessel lashed out, attempting to crush the shuttle, but Jonah was always one step ahead. He exploited weaknesses that no one had anticipated, and when he finally struck the core, the ship shuddered violently, its strange energy flickering and dying. The fleet disbanded, retreating into the void. Jonah emerged from the battle, exhausted and battered, but victorious. When he returned, Lyra could barely contain her relief. She rushed forward, her voice shaking. You actually did it." Jonah smiled faintly, wiping sweat and grime from his brow. "I told you, it's not impossible, just difficult." The advisors whispered, awed and fearful, but Lyra's eyes were fixed solely on him. She saw more than a human now. She saw courage, determination, and a heart that refused to bend. She realized then that heroism was not born from lineage or power or technology. It was born from choice, and from the willingness to stand when all hope seems lost. Lyra stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't believe humans could be heroes. I was wrong. You've changed everything." Jonah looked at her, tired but steady. "I didn't do it for belief. I did it because it had to be done. That's all any of us can do." In that moment, Lyra understood something profound. Heroism was not about being perfect. It was about being willing to act when everything seemed impossible, when fear ruled the heart, and when the world expected failure. And Jonah, standing before her, embodied all of it. The princess of a mighty empire, raised to trust only logic and power, felt something she had never felt before: hope. Victory was short-lived. Though the alien fleet had retreated, reports poured in of scattered attacks on distant colonies. It seemed the creatures were not gone. They were regrouping, evolving, and adapting. Lyra felt a heavy weight settle on her shoulders. The Empire had survived the first assault, but survival was no longer enough. She realized they were on the edge of annihilation, and no technology alone could save them. Jonah moved through the command center with quiet determination. Every plan he made, every risk he took, reflected a mind that thrived under pressure. He was not just a pilot or a warrior. He was a problem solver, a spark in the darkness that seemed to guide those around him. Lyra watched him, mesmerized, as he traced the paths of enemy movements, predicting patterns that even the most advanced Elorian computers struggled to analyze. But the pressure began to show. Jonah's hands shook slightly as he adjusted controls, and his voice, usually calm, bore a subtle strain. He had been pushing beyond human limits, risking exhaustion, hunger, and injury to protect beings who had never believed in him. Lyra could see it, and it terrified her. Humans were not built for endless conflict. They were fragile mortal. And yet he carried the hopes of an entire empire on his shoulders. Lyra stepped closer, her voice soft but insistent. "You cannot do this alone. We can help." Jonah shook his head, tired but resolute. "No, this is something I must do myself, but your people can follow. They just need someone to show them that it's possible. That courage matters more than power." Her chest ached. She wanted to argue, to insist, but deep down she knew he was right. Her empire had relied too long on technology and intellect. Now they needed inspiration, proof that even the smallest, seemingly weakest individuals could stand against impossible odds. The next mission was the most dangerous yet. The core of the alien fleet was hiding near a collapsing star cluster, a place where even the most advanced ships risked disintegration. Jonah volunteered once again, this time with a small group of Elorian pilots. Lyra watched as he led them, a human among beings who considered themselves superior, yet he commanded their respect without words, without arrogance, simply through courage and decisive action. The battle was brutal. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes, and the stars themselves seemed to shiver under the intensity of the fight. Jonah darted through energy streams, rescuing trapped pilots, outmaneuvering attacks that would have destroyed any other vessel. Lyra's heart pounded. She realized she had never felt fear and pride so intensely at the same time. Every decision he made, every life he saved, chipped away at the old belief that humans were weak. At one point, Jonah's shuttle was caught in a collapsing gravity wave. Lyra held her breath as he calculated a trajectory, dodging debris and energy bursts, twisting his craft in impossible arcs. When he emerged, shaken but alive, he had saved 2 Elorian ships that would have been destroyed. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. One human, unarmed, outmatched, and outnumbered, had changed the outcome of an entire fleet battle. After the battle, Lyra approached him privately. "I don't understand. How can you do this? How can you risk so much for us?" Jonah looked at her, exhausted, sweat streaking his face. "Because no one else will. Because courage isn't about being fearless, it's about standing when fear is everywhere. That's all any of us can do." Lyra's eyes welled with tears. She had spent her life believing in control, in intellect, in the certainty of her empire. But Jonah had shown her something she could never have learned in a classroom or council chamber. Courage, compassion, and action mattered more than perfection, more than strategy, more than titles. For the first time, Lyra felt both small and immense. Small because she had underestimated a human. Immense because she now understood that heroism was alive, tangible, and standing right before her. Jonah had not only saved her people. He had saved her world of ideas, her belief in what was possible. And in that quiet moment, amidst the wreckage and exhaustion of battle, Lyra realized she could no longer see humans as fragile or insignificant. Because Jonah had proven something far greater, that even the weakest among them could carry the weight of galaxies and hearts. The Elorian Council was not pleased. Jonah's victories, while undeniable, stirred unrest among the Empire's elite. Generals whispered that a human should not command Elorian forces. Advisors feared that Princess Lyra's fascination with him would weaken their authority. Some even suggested that he be removed quietly before his influence grew too strong. Lyra overheard their plotting and felt a storm of anger rise within her. How could they doubt someone who had saved countless lives? How could they question courage when it was right before their eyes? Jonah, unaware of the council's discontent, continued his work with quiet determination. He did not seek praise or power. He merely sought to stop the threat that loomed over Eloria. Yet the whispers followed him like shadows. Lyra noticed the way some of her own people would glance at him with suspicion, their voices tight with doubt, their eyes narrowing. He was human, small, fragile, yet unyielding, and that scared them. One evening, Lyra found Jonah in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. His face was streaked with fatigue, his hands trembling slightly. He had spent hours strategizing, rescuing colonies, and guiding Elorian pilots through dangerous missions. She approached him carefully. "You're pushing yourself too hard," she said softly. Jonah shook his head. "I don't have time to rest. If I stop, they fall. If I fail, your world falls." Lyra's chest ached at his words. "You're human. You can't carry everything alone." He turned to her, exhaustion and determination mixing in his eyes. "Maybe humans aren't meant to be perfect. Maybe it's enough to try, enough to stand, enough to act when no one else will." Lyra felt tears prick her eyes. She had believed that heroism was about perfection, about control. Jonah had shown her it was about choice, about courage in the face of impossible odds. He had no powers, no lineage, no title that mattered, just the strength to act. But their moment of quiet was shattered. A council representative stormed into the deck. "Princess Lyra, this human, he cannot be allowed to interfere further. He endangers our people's trust in the Empire." Jonah stood, his voice calm but firm. "I'm not here to interfere. I'm here to save lives. You think courage is a threat. You think doing what must be done is dangerous." The representative sneered. "He's reckless, a stranger. Your people should not follow him." Lyra stepped forward, fury and resolve in her eyes. Enough! He has saved more lives than all of you combined. He has faced impossible odds while you debated in comfort. And now you dare question him? I will not allow it. The councilman recoiled, but the room trembled with tension. Lyra's voice softened, yet held an unshakable power. Jonah is not just a human, he is a hero. And heroes are what my people need. Jonah looked at her, a faint smile appearing despite his exhaustion. I didn't do this for praise, he said quietly. I did it because someone had to. The council fell silent. Even the skeptics could not deny the truth in his words. The battles, the lives saved, the colonies preserved, it all spoke louder than any argument. Lyra realized that Jonah had not only fought the enemy outside the Empire, but also the fear and prejudice within it. That night, Lyra and Jonah stood together on the observation deck, looking at the stars. She felt an unfamiliar warmth, a connection beyond words. She realized that heroism was contagious. It inspired, it healed, it transformed. Jonah had done more than fight. He had changed hearts, including hers. And as the lights of distant colonies shimmered in the void, Lyra understood a truth she could no longer deny. Courage did not belong to empires, titles, or species. It belonged to those who dared to act, no matter how small, no matter how fragile, no matter how impossible the odds. Jonah, a single human, had proven it. The calm did not last. The alien fleet, weakened but not defeated, returned in greater numbers, more organized, and with a fury that shook the very edges of the Elorian Empire. Their ships moved like predators, surrounding colonies and cutting off escape routes. Panic spread faster than any communication could handle. Even seasoned Elorian generals faltered under the sheer scale of the threat. Lyra felt a chill deep in her chest. This was the moment the Empire could crumble. Jonah, however, did not waver. He studied the enemy movements, analyzing patterns even the Elorian computers could not decipher. His human intuition allowed him to see gaps, weaknesses, and strategies that others missed. Lyra watched him, a mix of awe and fear swirling within her. He had no special armor, no lineage of command, just sheer determination and courage that seemed to burn brighter than the stars themselves. The council proposed a cautious retreat, but Lyra's voice rang out with resolve. We will not run. Jonah has shown us that we can fight even against impossible odds. We will stand together or we will fall together. Jonah turned toward her, exhaustion etched on his face, yet his eyes held that same unwavering determination. Then let's make them remember why courage matters. They launched a coordinated attack. Jonah led a small strike team directly into the heart of the alien fleet, moving with uncanny precision through deadly barrages. Lyra, commanding the fleet from orbit, coordinated support, trusting Jonah's instincts over her general's rigid strategies. Every maneuver Jonah made defied logic but yielded results. He risked his life repeatedly, saving ships that should have been lost, guiding pilots through traps no Elorian had ever imagined. During the battle, a massive alien dreadnought appeared, its size dwarfing anything in the Empire's arsenal. Shields shimmered with a dark alien energy, capable of obliterating entire fleets. Lyra felt her breath catch. This was the weapon that could end them all, yet Jonah did not hesitate. He targeted the vessel's weak points, moving closer with unmatched courage. A strike that seemed suicidal to Elorian eyes became a calculated act of human audacity. Lyra's heart pounded as she watched him maneuver within the dreadnought's firing range, his small shuttle twisting and darting through energy blasts. Then, with a precise strike, he disabled the ship's core, sending it spinning into the void. The alien fleet faltered, disarrayed by the loss of their command vessel. In the aftermath, Jonah's shuttle limped back, battered and scorched, but he emerged alive, breathing heavily yet smiling faintly. Lyra ran to him, tears of relief streaming down her face. You did it again," she whispered, her voice trembling. He shook his head, tired but unwavering. "I didn't do it for glory. I did it because it had to be done, because someone had to stand even when it seemed impossible." Lyra realized then that heroism was not about perfection, nor about titles or power. It was about standing up when everyone else expected failure, about risking everything for something greater than yourself. Jonah, a human, had done exactly that. The Empire had been saved, not by the strongest ships or the most brilliant minds, but by one human who refused to bow to fear. Lyra's heart swelled with admiration, gratitude, and an emotion she had never expected, love born from respect and awe for the courage of another being. And in that moment, she understood something profound. Humans were more than fragile creatures. They were capable of greatness, of acts that could change the course of worlds. Jonah had proven it time and again, and in doing so, he had also changed her forever. Lyra looked out at the stars, at the colonies still flickering with life, and whispered, "Perhaps humanity is exactly what the galaxy needs." The galaxy held its breath. The remnants of the alien fleet, furious and desperate, had regrouped near the heart of the Elorian Empire. Their next strike promised annihilation, and even the bravest Elorians trembled at the thought. Princess Lyra stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars, feeling the weight of every life in her hands. Yet beside her, Jonah remained calm, his eyes steady and unwavering, though fatigue etched deep lines on his face. "We can't let them destroy everything," Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper, though it carried the authority of the throne. Jonah turned to her, tired but resolute. "Then we won't. We fight. Not because it's easy, not because it's guaranteed, but because someone has to stand." The final battle began with fire and fury. The alien ship surged like a black wave, tearing through the outer defenses. Elorian pilots, inspired by Jonah's previous acts, fought with renewed courage. Lyra coordinated the fleet, her strategies blending with Jonah's daring maneuvers. And Jonah, he led the charge, a human among gods, a flicker of courage blazing brighter than any weapon. During the fight, the alien flagship revealed its ultimate weapon, a beam of energy capable of erasing entire planets from existence. The fleet panicked, but Jonah acted. He piloted a small craft, weaving through destruction, using his human intuition to outmaneuver the impossible. Every move was precise yet reckless, a dance between life and death. Lyra watched, her heart aching, knowing that if he fell, everything would fall with him. He reached the flagship's core. His small shuttle, battered and smoking, was no match for its defenses. Yet Jonah did not hesitate. He guided a series of precise strikes, exploiting the alien ship's weak points with courage no Elorian strategy could teach. As the ship began to crumble, energy surging chaotically, Jonah made one final move, risking himself to ensure the blast would not destroy the nearby colonies. The flagship exploded in a cascade of light and fire, scattering the remaining alien vessels. Silence fell across the battlefield. Ships floated, damaged but intact. The colonies were safe. The galaxy seemed to exhale. Lyra rushed to the landing platform. She saw Jonah emerge from the shuttle, exhausted, scorched, and bleeding. But he was alive. She ran to him, tears streaming down her face, and threw her arms around him. You did it. You saved everything." Jonah smiled faintly, his strength almost spent. "We did it together. Courage isn't mine alone, it's what people choose to stand with." Lyra held him tightly, her mind racing. She had always believed heroism was a myth, that humans were fragile, insignificant creatures. But Jonah had shattered every belief she had. He had faced impossible odds, risked death countless times, and still stood tall. She realized that heroism was not about perfection, nor lineage, nor advanced technology. It was about standing when fear dominates, about fighting when all hope seems lost, about choosing action over despair. "You've shown me everything," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You've shown me that courage can come from anyone, even someone like you, a human." Jonah looked at her, exhaustion and warmth in his eyes. "Humans, we're not perfect, we're fragile, but we can choose to be brave, and sometimes that's enough to change worlds." Lyra realized then that her empire had not only been saved, but it had been transformed. Her people had seen courage embodied in one human being, and it inspired them in ways no technology could. And for Lyra, it had changed something deeper: her heart, her understanding of life, and her belief in the impossible. As the stars shimmered across the galaxy, Lyra took Jonah's hand, feeling the strength and warmth of a human heart that had risked everything for her world. "You are a hero," she said softly, "not because of what you have, but because of what you are willing to give." Jonah smiled, tired but at peace. Then maybe humans can teach even empires a thing or two. For the first time in her life, Princess Lyra believed without doubt. Heroes could come from anywhere, and courage, pure, unshakable courage, could change the fate of worlds. And standing together, human and princess, The galaxy felt brighter, alive with hope, and ready for whatever might come next.